6 in my outfitting my Nissan Frontier for Work in the Woods video series. In the last video, video 5, I kind of called that my electronics and communications upgrade. I installed a Wilson cell booster, a couple of radios, and in that video I installed an underhood relay and fuse box. And during that install I ran the necessary cables to power the viair 400C air compressor that we're going to be installing in this video. And the reason I have Onboard Air, I have it in every off-road vehicle I own. Right now it's 4 vehicles. And I drive a lot on gravel roads. Not just short trips here and there, but potentially more than 1,000 miles a week on gravel. And that much time on rock, you just get flat tires. It doesn't matter how good your tires are or anything else, sometimes you get flat tires. Thankfully it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, I don't really like it to slow me down. And so I just, as soon as I see a flat tire, I usually just throw a tire plug in there, hit it with, top it off with the Onboard Air, and then I'm on my way. So flat tire is like a 5-minute slowdown instead of being a potentially big ordeal trying to get a jack out and everything else. So that's why we're doing that, and let's go ahead and put this truck up on the lift and get started. All right, let's take a look at what we're going to be installing tonight. I've got this air tank right here. I've got several of these. This one's one of the smallest ones I have. It's just an air tank off of an air compressor, and I robbed the compressor and motor assembly for another project, and I just save these kind of things because they're useful for onboard air projects. So I'm probably going to be cutting some fittings off and maybe welding some new ones in and welding brackets and stuff on it once I figure out where this thing's going. Now for an air compressor, I'm going to be installing a viair 400C. I bought this off of Amazon, the link's in the video description, and I have pretty extensive experience with the viair air compressors. I've installed maybe 30 of them over the years on vehicles that I own and also for other people. And I really like these. I have never had one fail. And I've subjected them to some real abuse. These do have remote filter kits on them, and I've only ever installed one of these remote filter kits on one. All the rest of them, the air compressors are mounted underneath the vehicles on the frame rails where they're subjected to road spray and mud and sand and everything else. And you'd think that would kill these things, but it just doesn't. So I don't have too much worry about installing this thing on the side of the frame rail, which we're going to pick a good spot out for it where it's not going to get subjected to too much brush and things, but it is going to be under the vehicle. And then I just robbed my bin of brass fittings and things like that. Probably got what I need right here to do all my plumbing. All right, let's figure out where we're going to put this air tank and compressor. Now, finding a place to bolt up an air tank on a truck is always a little bit of a challenge, and it's even more challenging on a compact truck like this. But I've spent a few minutes walking around the truck, and I think I've found a good place for this thing to go. This is right behind the left rear wheel. I've got this perfect void right here. The air tank just happens to fit in nicely. I'm not going to put a drain on this tank, and that may not seem like the best idea, but this isn't going to be used for air tools. And so by leaving this on the bottom, any moisture that accumulates in here is going to be blown out the first time that I use it to fill up the tire. And so that's probably just the way I'm going to leave it. Even putting a drain fitting on here, it's just not going to get used. So rather than add an extra leak point, we're just going to engineer it this way. All right, I've settled on a design for the tank mounting. What I've done is I've cut this foot off. It was mounted over here. Set it over here, tacked it into place. Got a plug in this port. And then I've cut some 1.5 by 1.5 steel tubing. And right now I've just got it tack welded to these 2 feet, but this will space the tank down the appropriate amount. Then I'm just going to TIG weld in these nuts right here. Then I'm going to drill 4 matching holes in the bed and then run some screws down from the top with some big fender washers into this. That's what's going to hold the tank. I think it ought to be plenty sturdy. Alright, these nuts are tacked into place and the threads are still good all the way around, it looks like. Alright, next thing is to hold this up to the bed, mark the holes, and punch a couple of holes in the bed. Okay, next up I'm going to mount an air chuck back here in an accessible position. And I have one mounted back here on all my other vehicles that I have onboard air on. And I thought about maybe mounting it right here, but I don't want it to get in the way of the safety chains or anything, so I'm going to weld a piece of steel on here. We'll cut this down, weld this fitting in here, and then I'll have the air chuck coming out this side, and then I'll have a 3-way T coming off the back. One will go to the air compressor, which is going to be mounted over here, and the other side will go to my air tank, which is going to be mounted over here. I made up this female-to-female fitting right here. Basically, it's just a female coupler that's welded into a piece of flat steel right here, and that'll allow me to put the air chuck on one side and then a T on the other. I'm going to weld that in just right here on the hitch. So this will allow me a nice firm mounting point for my air chuck. All right, time for another look under my truck here. I have the air tank mounted right here in this void. As you can see, there's nothing hanging down, nothing to get hung up on any brush or anything like that. It might be subjected to a little bit of road spray, I don't know, but it's all sealed off, so it shouldn't be any kind of a problem. I've got this 4-way T right here. I've got 160 psi pressure relief on this side. I've got my pressure switch right here, and that's 90 to 120. And I've got my air inlet and outlet right here. The hose is going to come out and run over to the compressor and the outlet on the back side. Now on this pressure switch, I actually wired the relay in the last video. It's in a relay box. It's under the hood. Basically, this pressure switch is just going to switch a ground signal to a relay that's up under the hood. That's what this wire is right here. And then that relay sends power to the air compressor. So I actually haven't tested this yet, but I should be able to take this wire and touch it to good ground and the air compressor should start. That's good. It's all wired up properly. I've got my air chuck right here. And this side's going to be hooked to the compressor. This side right here is going to go over to the air tank. And then my compressor is mounted in the matching void on the other side. Now I will say that viair says to find a clean, dry mounting place to mount the compressor upright. So I've done pretty much everything wrong here. However, my experience is, I've owned a lot of these air compressors and I've abused the crap out of them. I have one that's 11 years old on one vehicle that's been, it's mounted underneath the truck. It's been underwater in the sand, mud, pretty much every way that I can abuse it. It's still working just fine. Other than a filter change, I've never had to do anything to it. So I'm sure that this is going to be fine. If it's not, well, I'll eat it. I'm not going to pursue a warranty claim with viair, but I'm sure that it's going to be just fine. So compressor's mounted there. Got my leader hose right here. I just need to run a small line from that to right there. And this project is almost done. Time for a little bit of air hose and a couple of crimp connectors, and she'll be finished. I actually found a leak. Before I took the truck down off the lift, I sprayed all of the joints with soap solution. That's a good thing I did. All of them turned up just fine, but I got some kind of a leak right around the threads right here. So I'm going to get a turn or so on this fitting and hopefully we can stop that leak without taking everything apart. Actually, turns out I left this just hand tight in here. I never did tighten it up with a wrench, so that was the source of our leak. All the other joints look good. I don't have any kind of bubbles showing up from anywhere else. So I think it's time to take this truck down off the lift. Well, that just about wraps it up. The air compressor is working fine. There's no leaks or anything like that. So that ends this project right here. And really, this kind of ends the video series, at least for now. My employee is coming to pick up this truck later this week, and I really won't have access to it here in my shop until probably the fall. And when the fall rolls around, I'll probably pull it back in here. I'd like to do a custom front bumper for it and a winch and some body armor, stuff like that. So guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it, and stay tuned because I'm going to have some more vehicle modification and shop videos coming up.